Hi, I'm Rose, and this is the Sovereign Soul, where I talk about sovereignty within the body and this life and without. So, living a sovereign life is about knowing yourself and being informed to make informed decisions. Knowing about yourself, knowing about the world that you live in, and I believe fully immersing yourself in the human experience. It's why we're here. So, trying to find a way to have enjoyment and peace through everything. Um, I think that's maybe part of the game. And in remembering our own divinity and our oneness with everything, we can somehow play that game a little bit easier. But that doesn't take away from the fact that we are human beings, and human beings do not make life easy for themselves at all. We formulate patterns based on our childhood mostly, and then those patterns play out in different areas of our life. There are three major lies which I believe we are taught through society and life in general, like three major deceptions. Those deceptions are: number one, God, that God is something outside of us and we need to seek it and seek its approval. Number two is love, that love is outside of you, and if you want to be loved, you need to get that love from people outside of you. And number three is around food. I think that we all eat way too much, and we also are not eating optimal diets based on, say, standard American diet. Most people are addicted to food, and very few people are actually eating to nourish themselves. So those to me are the three biggest deceptions of society as a whole. Those are very brief reasons. Of course, my reasons are far more in depth than that. Today, I want to speak about the loved one. And the reason for this is that I am a mom of four, and I was thinking today about what advice do I wish that I had got when I was a young girl, 16 or even younger, when it came to love and relationships, because I was a mess. I really did not. I had a messy childhood, even messier teenage, super messy 20s. I would say 30s was still pretty chaotic, and it started getting better in my 40s. But that didn't change these really unhealthy patterns that I have had around love and choosing my intimate partners in a way that would feed my soul. That's not the way I've done things. And it's taken me nearly 48 years on this planet to be able to realize how I should have done things better by myself. I say for myself, not by myself, like as in for me, like how I should have done that for me, had my back, but didn't know or didn't understand. I just said these really unhealthy patterns. And I think the biggest takeaway from my experiences when it comes to relationships and being in a fair amount of toxic ones, um, I believe that when you meet somebody, you need to, number one, know that you can be friends with that person. It's easy to get along with most people when people all have a nice side. Doesn't matter what the negative characteristics of the person are. Everybody's got a nice side. So I think if I could give one bit of advice that I wish I'd had when it comes to people falling in love, I want to say to people, look at the bad parts. Not because you're trying to pull them apart and find reason not to be with them, but you're actually looking at them to know whether or not your bad parts are compatible. All good parts of all people are compatible. It doesn't matter who you are, what you do, if that person has certain charms and humor and all sorts of lovely things. Those things are easy to live with, just like our good parts are easy to live with. But when it comes to the nitty gritty, how people handle their insecurities, people, how they might handle jealousies, how they might handle being hurt, how they handle life's ups and downs, basically, or how they are dealing with their own life's ups and downs coming into the relationship. You want to know whether or not you can live with that, and whether or not that person either triggers the worst in you or you trigger the worst in them. Do you bring out the best in one another? Are you able to support one another or understand one another when you're at your lowest? Do those negative traits, do they show themselves as dysfunctional and toxic? That is what you really want to look at. That's really, really hard when people fall in love with the idea of somebody. Everybody, when you fall in love, you give an impression of who you want that person to see you as. So you'll say a bunch of stuff, but words are not what actually distinguish what somebody is. But when you've already fallen in love and you've got that all that infatuation feeling, that in love feeling, if you've already fallen in love with an idea of somebody, not the actual person. And it would be the same if anybody has fallen in love with you. They don't know you. They don't know you until they see all the parts of you. So making sure that you can be friends with the not so good parts, I think, is what needs to happen in order to make sure that you be a compatible fit with somebody in your future. And interestingly, I can see that as the microcosm and the macrocosm. When human beings actually don't make friends with their own faults, they're too scared to look at them, they're in denial. You also then don't ever really make friends with the faults of a partner if you haven't fully assessed whether or not you find them totally toxic and dysfunctional to you, or whether or not you can see that, okay, we've all got our shit, but I can live with that shit. So that is the advice that I really and truly wish that I'd been given, to understand what those red flags are, to understand when it's okay for me to go, no, this isn't working for me, or no, something feels awful, whatever those reasons might be, and for me to have trusted that and to learn to trust that, because I most certainly have always felt in love with the idea, and the actions have never followed, and I've always been in a kind of cognitive dissonance on that. So yeah, that would be the guidance and the information I wish I had when I was a young girl going through, when I started my journey when it came to romantic relationships.